So if I wanted to test the transducer, which is right up top here,
Yeah.
what's the
So
sequence of it here? Because I know this
right. So
controller, this is the older version. They got a newer version. And I think it's 41, 42, 43 for their transducer, but this is 30, 31, 32. You want to
yeah.
walk through that for
So
me?
yeah, of course. So in this application right here, this is one controller with one transducer. They're all ratiometric 5-volt transducers. So they need a supply, a ground, and they give you a voltage back. So 30 and 31 there is your supply and your ground, which you've got the probes on. So you should see 5 volts between those two DC. If you go between ground and S with your probes, you will see the proportional signal back. So that's your pressure reading effectively. And depending on what you set your transducer range to in the controller and what gas you select in the controller, it will give you your pressure and it will give you your calculated temperature from that. If you've got, let's say, for example, it's not running and you've got 5 volts on where you've got the probes there, that would be maxed out on the transducer. So you've either got a system that's stopped and your pressure is very high, or you've got a fault somewhere or a missed wire. Now, Danfoss is very good with transducers. So if you imagine you can use one transducer to run a whole island of cabinets, that's great. Saves you a lot of transducers. You don't need 6 transducers if you've got 6 cabinets on an island. The pressure is going to be close enough, especially on CO2 on all those cases. And Danfoss lets you daisy chain all of that together. So all your 5 volts get linked up, or your grounds get linked up, or your signals get linked up, and you will get the same reading on each controller. The beauty of that is if you turn any case off, the transducer still gets power, you still get your reading. When we come to Corel in a little bit, you can't do that. You can only power the transducer from one controller. So if, let's say, somebody's doing a case clean, if you turn the controller off that's powering the transducer, everything's going to lose its evaporating temperature. But Danfoss is really good with that. You can feed, I think it's up to 10 cases off one transducer. But yeah, check you've got your 5 volts coming out, check you've got a signal coming back. Things can drag it down. Water in the plug will drag the 5 volts down. It's only got a very limited amount of current it can put out. It'll protect itself. The chances are you take the fault away, it'll recover. You can also take the wires out of the plug or take the plug off the transducer. If your 5 volts comes back, the fault is at the transducer end, not at the controller end. It's quite rare to kill the output from the controller. It's much more common that something drags it down in the field.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. I didn't have the slide here, but that's exactly right. Pull it off. Am I getting the 5 volts out? If you
Yeah.
are, then it's a transducer. And I've seen this countless times on CO2 systems where people are changing parameters, changing stuff in reality, or replacing components. In reality, it's just a pressure transducer that is faulty.
Yeah, it's more often than not something it's using to calculate the superheat or the case temperature that's gone faulty rather than the controller. The controllers are pretty solid on things like that.